Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Once again, we're going to go ahead and get started with today's webinar. This is actually the third and final installment of our Learn Over Lunch webinar series. And today's title is Ask HR and Get Your Job Search Answers. I welcome everyone here today. If you've attended prior Learn Over Lunch webinars, I'm glad to have you back. Or if this is the first one you're joining us for, I'm glad that you decided to join us today. So my name is Shannon Gallo, and I'm going to moderate our panel today. I'm the Manager of Career Services here at the Cuny School of Professional Studies. There's my email, phone, and the website for career services here at SPS. And once again, welcome. So if you've been wanting to know sort of the secrets about job search, now is your chance. Today's webinar is going to give you the opportunity to get the true lowdown on your job search. The people with the power to hire will share their secrets. So the format of today's webinar is going to go something like this. First of all, I'll provide you with a brief introduction of each of our three panelists. Then each of those panelists will just give you some quick job search pointers and some other ideas that they have that they think would be helpful to you as a job seeker. And then finally, the fun part, we will answer questions that come in from you, our attendees. So our three panelists today, the first of those, we will hear from Prudence Pitter. With over 17 years of experience in HR, Prudence still says there is so much more to learn. She's been in the job market from a very young age, and she prides herself at being driven and a go-getter. She has experience as a file clerk, bank teller, receptionist, administrative assistant, shoe salesperson, and cashier. However, she considers her career to be the last 17 or so years in human resources. She's had the opportunity to work in various HR positions in such industries as nonprofit, retail, hospitality, staffing, banking, manufacturing, and technology, some of those in a global capacity. Prudence jokingly tells her friends that being in human resources has allowed her to work with many different people while tearing her hair out in an attempt to resolve their problems, at the same time balancing the goal of helping to create a desirable place to work. She holds a bachelor's degree with a major in business management and a minor in human resources management and an MBA. Prudence also has plans to pursue her PhD in organizational development. Mrs. Pitter's genuine desire to help people is one of the things that drives her most. And I will just add that SPS was lucky enough to have Prudence participate on a similar panel event back in 2012, and I'm thrilled that she's able to join us again today. We actually met through a professional association, and we both volunteered on the same committee in that organization. So it's been wonderful to have really developed a relationship with Prudence. Prudence, if you can go ahead and take the floor today, we'd love to hear some of your job search pointers.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Shannon, for your introduction. It's a pleasure to be speaking to the Cuny students once again. I'll touch a little bit on resumes as well as job search. And what I like to do is just talk about my pet peeves and some of the things that have worked for me personally, as well as some of the things that I see as I review resumes literally on a daily basis. So in my job, I post ads almost daily, and a lot of the jobs are different levels. And what I notice is that as it relates to resumes, there's some that are just better formatted than others. And of course, the ones that, quite frankly, look nicer are the ones that get a lot more attention, because it's clear that the individual who created the resume put some attention into it, takes the job search seriously, and is really looking to make an impression. So the resume formatting is important. The type of font that is used should not be too fancy, but it also shouldn't be too plain. Also, there's a lot of run-on that I see from time to time in resume. And what I mean by that is there's just one font and one format from start to finish throughout the resume, including even the name, the address, and the contact information. And making sure that some of the areas are clearly identified. What was the position? what was the company, what was the length of time that the individual was in that position is important. It makes it look better, but it's also easier to read to pinpoint what the skills are. In reference to skills, it's never a good idea to highlight the job description. Never cut and paste the job description into the resume. You do want to leave something for the conversation in the interview. So you want to make sure that on the resume there is sufficient information for the individual reviewing the resume to understand that you have the skills necessary to fulfill the job that was posted, but you don't want to put so much information that there are no questions left to be asked. It's also a good idea to highlight specific projects or specific things that were big wins for you in each position. That really helps the individual reviewing the resume to see that not only did you do the job, but you went above and beyond, or there's something in particular that you accomplished while you were there. I noticed some individuals include references on the actual resume. I think it's a great idea to have a reference sheet and submit that once that is requested. Even if there's not a lot of experience and the background is not varied, putting too much information in the resume can be distracting. So leaving references for a separate reference page is a good idea. Also, education. Just listing the school that you attended and the degree that you obtained is very helpful, but any additional information that you can include would also be helpful. So if there was a particular committee that you served on, put that information in there. If you received special credit for a conference or any other thing like that, it's also helpful to mention that in there, because employers are not only interested in individuals who can do the job, but also individuals who will be a good fit and a good match in that particular job. And individuals who are active in the community and go above and beyond in their job do stand out and are more attractive to organizations. Now, once you have the resume down, you want to make sure you want to make sure that you proofread it and not just clicking spell check, because spell check will not pick up double words and it will not pick up grammatical errors. You want to make sure that you literally read your resume and that you also read it out loud. And if you have someone else to review it for you, that is also a good idea, because that someone else can point out areas that you may have missed. But it's very important that you're not sending out resumes with typographical errors or resumes that have any other errors that would make it seem that you're not detail oriented, and employers do not want to get to the step of actually meeting you and considering you for the job. Now, one of the biggest ways that I job search is through networking. I network with individuals that I know, and I network with individuals that I do not know. And the way that I do that is I ask for ideas and recommendations from others, and I also ask for introductions on LinkedIn. So depending on the type of industry that you're in or that you're looking to go in, it's important for you to find out where does that industry meet up. So for example, in the hospitality industry, there are two main organizations within New York City that I make sure that I'm a part of, that I get their regular emails, and that I attend as many of their functions as possible, because I want to stay connected with others in the industry. And most industries are like that. They are organizations that are meant for networking and are meant for educational purposes, and it's a great way for you to meet other individuals. LinkedIn is also a great place not only to meet others, but also to job hunt. The LinkedIn job site has actually grown over the years. There are a lot more positions that are posted on LinkedIn than back when LinkedIn just started to get popular. And then there are also some non-traditional places for job search. Craigslist, for example. A few years ago, I would have never considered posting a job on Craigslist, and I know individuals who have had interviews and had professional positions through Craigslist. So Craigslist is not just about selling used iPhones or car parts. It's also very much used for job search. Also, again, specific industry-related job sites. Go into Google or ask someone who's in the industry and find out where are the places. For example, hospitality. H Careers is known for hospitality type of positions. Other industries have similar job sites that can be used. Monster is not as big as it used to be in the past, but also Monster is somewhere that a lot of job seekers go to, as well as Career Builder. Indeed.com is a site that I have been using for many years and one that I highly recommend. Indeed.com is a site that job seekers can go to and Indeed pull jobs from various websites. So it can be a one-stop shop. I would not suggest that if you're seriously and actively looking for a position that you only use Indeed. But Indeed is certainly a great place to start and should be a great part of your job search. That's all I have as far as tips, and I look forward to answering the questions towards the end.
Thank you very much, Prudence. I think it was really good how you shared some real specific pointers about resumes, and a lot of it are things that I've discussed before with students, but it's really nice to hear it straight from the horse's mouth to know those kinds of things about resumes as well. Our second panelist today will be Gretchen Gelson. Gretchen's background is comprised of nearly 15 years of human resources experience honed in both corporate and agency environments in Manhattan, Atlanta, and Buffalo. In addition to a solid background in recruitment, she acted as a strategic business partner and generalist functions at companies such as AIG and PhD, which is an Omnicom company. Plus, somehow she has managed to fit her love of health and fitness into her work life by personal training and teaching aerobics. Gretchen is very excited to be a part of the Maximum management team as a human resources recruiter. Maximum is a boutique recruiting firm that is exclusively dedicated to placing HR professionals in the tri-state area. Her firm places individuals in all HR functions at all levels, including generalists, recruiting, training and development, benefits, payroll, HRIS, and compensation. Their clients include large corporations as well as small across a variety of industries. Gretchen is also very involved in HRNY, and that's the New York City chapter of SHRM, and she recently acted as chair of the University Relations Committee. And this is actually how Gretchen and I know one another. We met years ago, and thanks to both of us doing well to maintain a connection, we've stayed in touch. And this is just another example of how networking, volunteering, and continuing contacts can really make a difference. Gretchen is a fantastic recruiter and HR professional. I think you'll all really find her insight helpful today. Gretchen, if you can go ahead and take it away.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well on this rainy day. I want to comment on one piece that Prudence mentioned, and I think she gave some terrific detailed information on the resumes. But one thing I want to point out, I believe that you're all from different disciplines, looking for different professions. Make sure that you're speaking with someone who's in your current profession when you're putting your resume together. And an example of that is I have a friend who's in advertising. In advertising, you may be able to put together a functional resume, and in many other areas as well, where you list kind of what your general skills are, and then the chronological portion is just the names, titles, and dates. In human resources, for example, that just doesn't fly. So I think it's important to not only speak with someone who has a wealth of experience in putting a resume together, but then speak with someone who's specifically in your field to make sure that resume is appropriate and fits with whatever your profession is. So moving on, I wanted to discuss a couple of avenues that I think you need to use when you're searching for jobs. And by the way, I want to mention that through the positions that I have held, I have used all three of these, and at different times, all three have been successful. So the first one is networking, and Prudence basically touched on just about everything that I was going to say. So again, just to make sure you're using LinkedIn, make sure you're attending professional associations, and with LinkedIn, make sure that you are really utilizing all that it can offer you. Make sure that you are linking in with all your past colleagues. Make sure that you're going through your alumni association and linking in with everyone there. Think of your friends. Think of all these different people, because any of those folks can give you leads or give you opportunities to connect with people in companies and positions that you're interested in. So that's the networking piece. With networking, though, one more thing. LinkedIn, make sure that your LinkedIn information is similar to your resume information. Do not have anything on either of those that is not on both of those. So I know there are people who take some positions off their resume. Don't have that on LinkedIn. Don't have additional information on one or the other because people will cross-reference everything on the internet these days. So that's networking. Second of all, use recruiters like myself. I work for a boutique recruiting agency. My agency only focuses on human resources. So if you're in HR, contact me. If not, I'm sorry, I won't be able to help. But in terms of agencies, look, you're using somebody to do the work for you. Don't forget that you want to use every avenue so that you can get your name out there, your experience out there to as many people as possible. When you are using an agency, though, make sure that you understand that that meeting with that agency is an interview. You need to showcase what your skills are, what your successes are. You need to go on extremely professionally, because if you don't come in and you don't offer up this amazing image and all these skills and experiences that make somebody want to hire you, why would that recruiter want to put you forth to their client? So don't forget that. The last piece is make sure that you are sending your resume to jobs that you find on the internet. A lot of people say, oh, it's just a black hole. Nobody's ever going to pick me up. Not true. However, you need to be applying to jobs that fit your experience and that your resume shows that. So when you're networking, people could know you and know how amazing you are and be able to hire you because they know the qualifications or the ability that you have for stretch opportunities. If someone is only looking at your resume and they're looking at 400 resumes that day, they are looking to match up terms that are on the job spec with terms that are on your resume. And it might not just be terms. It may be school, experience, computer systems, duties, etc. But you really need to look at that job spec and you need to make sure that your experience fits what the company is looking for. Now, does it have to fit 100%? No. And don't get caught up in that. But it needs to basically be 75 to 80% blatantly obvious that you have the necessary requirements for that position. The other, and along with that, let's say you apply to Cup Company, and it's for a position that you want to do, but you're not qualified for. And then 3 months later, you send another resume into Cup Company, and it is a position you're qualified for. What if that recruiter sees in their Taleo system, or whatever the system is that you submitted your resume, that you sent your resume in for something unrelated a few months ago? Might they say, hey, I don't know if this person's the best decision maker. I don't know if I want to call them in now, because why would they apply for that other position? So sending random resumes for positions you're not qualified for could hurt you in the future instead of just being a waste of time. The other piece around that is I would say to make sure that you're using the right terminology for the positions you're looking for. Go to Indeed or a similar site and print out 10 job specs for the position that you want to be in. Put them on your dining room table. Take out a highlighter. Start highlighting common themes, common terminology. Does your resume have those terms in it? Have things written in the same way? Providing, of course, that they are absolutely true and accurate. And that brings me to my next piece, beyond the three-prong approach, I call it, of recruiting, is something so important, especially in this market. Look, it's still a client market. There are a lot of candidates out there, so clients think that they can find exactly what they want. If they want this industry, this number of years, and purple hair, they think they can get it. So a lot of times companies are actually being more specific and saying no to people before they say yes. So what does that mean? That means one among many things is do not lie. Do not fudge information. People are checking. They will find out. Do not be dishonest. We have had many offers in the last 2 or 3 years, and beyond that as well, but offers that were rescinded because someone can't pass a background check, because they lied about their education, or even they fudged their date of employment by 2 or 3 months. Look, if you ended on 11/30 and you put down December, okay, but I'm talking about people who put 3 to 4 month difference on their resumes. You will be found out. Do not lie in any market, but especially in today's market when people are checking everything from salary to graduation to references to title. Be blatantly obvious. And that's all I have for this portion.
And our third and final panelist is Chip Joans. Chip is in a dual role as both an HR business partner and recruiter at NewEdge, a global institutional broker with about 3,000 employees. To date, he has over 15 years of broad recruitment and HR experience, and he's dedicated to a value-add approach. In addition, Chip has presented at over 20 colleges and universities covering a multitude of topics such as networking and interviewing, and he's participated in a number of corporate roundtable discussions. And the two of us met several years ago when I was employed at another university and he was recruiting for a different firm. I'm proud to say that we worked very well together in that capacity from the beginning, and we've stayed in contact with one another and maintained our relationship. A lot of that was by making an effort to occasionally check in as well as use LinkedIn. Chip knows a lot about what works in a job search, and I'm really looking forward to hearing from him today as well.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm definitely excited to take part in this. I think that collectively there'll be a lot of information that hopefully will be very helpful. And so I'm going to go ahead and cover branding. And I really see branding as sort of an overall theme that I think is sort of the umbrella that all of these other things sort of are under. So your resume, your approach to applying, your interaction with different recruiters. And I know that there are a lot of articles out there about your personal brand, but I'm going to try to drill down into some specifics because I've heard about it a lot myself, and I've done some research on it because it is something that interests me. So I'll try to keep this very specific and relevant to what you all are doing. I think that probably the easiest way to illustrate why it's so important is that 10 or 15 years ago or 20 years ago, it was essentially your resume, and that was it. Maybe a cover letter. You may have started applying for things online, but for the most part, you might have mailed it in or even faxed it in. But fast forward now, and just as the previous two speakers alluded to, there are a million things that I think relate to your job search. So I think that you all want to start thinking about yourself as a brand. And branding in its simplest form is just what comes to mind when you think of Apple, when you think of Coca-Cola, maybe what you think of when you hear BlackBerry. And what you really want to do is think about all the different touch points that you have as it relates to your search. And that could be everything from the people that will be involved. So, for example, career services. I'm a big proponent of career services. I think they have a lot to offer. Shannon has a lot of experience that you can leverage, especially in terms of a resume. You don't need to go out and spend $500 to have somebody do your resume. But people like Shannon in career services, people like Gretchen at the agencies, I couldn't agree more. How you present yourself to any touch point as it relates to a job is important. So, for example, when you go to meet with the agency, yes, it's an agency, but it doesn't mean that you should let your guard down. If you're at a networking event, again, it doesn't mean that you should let your guard down. You always want to think in terms of how am I communicating and how am I interacting with everybody around me, and what are people thinking of when it comes to me. So, for example, your LinkedIn presence, what does it say? Does it say things that are relatable to your resume? Does it say one thing or sort of give a different impression than maybe your cover letter does? Everything really has to be in sync. I'm certainly not saying that there's only one path when it comes to proceeding for a job search, but there has to be a cohesive approach that you are connecting all of the dots. And so when somebody walks away, they say, wow, this is somebody who wrote incredibly well. When I pulled up their LinkedIn page, it had all very similar information, and it even went one step beyond. I saw references. I saw people that endorsed the skills. I saw a very professional picture if you decide to put a picture on there. All of these things matter, and I think that what you really want to do is, again, pull the camera back a little bit. You want to think in terms of my resume. What is it saying? How does it relate to LinkedIn? The cover letters that I put out, how do the cover letters relate to what I'm putting in as a resume? And I'll give you a specific example. If your cover letter talks about how you can't wait to break into a very challenging entrepreneurial role and you just can't wait to get involved, but yet on LinkedIn in your summary it says looking for a large institution where I can be a part of best practices, they just don't align. So you want to figure out, what am I trying to do? What am I trying to deliver? What do I want people to think of when they see me? Am I looking to break into PR? Am I looking to break into a role that might be a little more artsy and therefore it's okay to be a little more artistic, a little more creative? Am I looking to break into an investment bank, which is maybe more traditional? So I think that what you really want to do is just, what is my brand? What do people think of? My brand, I want it to be very professional. I want it to be very crisp. I want to make sure that when I write something, it's professional. I want to make sure that my elevator pitch is aligned with my resume. So if you're at a networking event and somebody says, you know what, you mentioned you're interested in this, I might have something, tell me a little bit about you. You want to make sure that what you say is consistent, again, with what you're saying you want to do, what your resume says, what, for example, your LinkedIn might say, and whatever other public presence you might have out there. Just want to make sure that they all tie together so that when you do go into Shannon or you go to, for example, Gretchen, that there's a consistent, cohesive, very professional approach no matter where they go. So if they look at your cover letter, it's covered. If they look at your LinkedIn, it's covered. If the recruiter maybe has a relationship with Shannon and your name comes up, you're covered. You just want to make sure that all of the touch points are exactly how you want them to be. And it does take time. It does take a lot of effort, but it's not overly complicated. And that's it for now.